A lot of people struggle printing puff ink. They say it's hard, and I believe them because I'm one of them. But I'm not a stranger to it. Yeah, I'm not an expert either. So that's why today we're gonna do a bunch of experiments so we can take our screen printing skills to the next level. And if you're wondering why should you trust this random YouTuber, well, I've been printing t-shirts for around 5 years, and that's all I got. So stick around, you might learn something new. Now, let me explain the whole process in a nutshell. We grab our normal ink and we just add a small percentage of puff additive. Then we print it on a low mesh screen, the same way you will print on regular t-shirts. But when you heat up the ink, instead of staying flat, it rises up like a foam, giving you a nice, cool puff effect. Or you could call it a 3D effect. Seems pretty simple, but it's not. So let's go break it down. Okay, so I'm gonna show you everything that we're gonna use on this video. Starting with this puff additive that you can find in Screen Print Direct. Second, we're gonna use a low cure ink. This rapid cure one will work just fine. We're also gonna need a spatula, an empty container, and a scale, a gram scale. Now, to heat up my ink, I'm gonna use a flash dryer. But don't worry if you can't afford one, because I'm also gonna do a couple test runs with a heat gun. I have noticed that a lot of people use 110 mesh as the standard screen when printing puff ink. We're also gonna use a 110, but I'm adding a 40 mesh screen just to see the difference. I'm a little curious. Will it work? Will it not work? I really don't know. But what I do know is I gotta coat these screens. Let's go.
Have you ever felt like giving up because you tried and tried, but for the 100th time the stars just won't align? Have you ever had a broken heart that even time won't heal, because you'd rather feel the pain than say goodbye? I know I have drowned in holy water, had my spirit shaking.
Before I do anything else, let me explain the plan. So pay close attention, just so we all could be on the same page. Normally, when I quote my screens with emotion, I give 2 passes in the back and 1 in the front. But for this project, I did 3 and 3, which is gonna give me a thicker layer of emotion, helping me drop more ink when printing. On top of that, it's gonna make my design more puffier. Well, that's my hypothesis. Obviously, adding those extra layers of emotion is gonna increase drying time. So that's why I let it sit overnight. And again, it's gonna also increase my exposure time a couple seconds more. For me, it's 10 seconds. For you guys, I really don't know, because we all have different exposure time. Correction, we probably use different exposure units. The temperature is different from where I'm at, from where you're at. And we probably don't use the same emotion. Now, you have to understand that not every design looks good with puff prints. Puff prints, in my opinion, look the best when the design is nice and bold. Big and bold. Small, very detailed designs don't get the same 3D dimensional look like the big bold ones. So that's why I'm doing all these tests with numbers, shapes, and letters, just to see the outcome. Now, when it comes to printing, I'm gonna focus on 3 main things. First, my temperature. How much heat does the print need so it can start puffing? Or for how many seconds do I gotta keep my print under the flash so it can start puffing? Second, I'm gonna print different layers. I'm gonna test with 1 layer, I'm gonna test with print, flash, print, and I'm gonna test with print, flash, print, flash, print. 3 layers. I'm gonna add 3 layers at the last. Third, I'm gonna try different percentages of puff additive just to see which one gives me the best results. 20%, 30%, 40%, and so on until I find the look that I'm going for. And there's actually a formula for this, but we'll talk about it when I come back. I gotta go burn my screen first. Let's go.
Have you ever found you lost your way, sailing a sea of tears, caught in a storm of fears that rages through the night? And do you ever wish that time could stop, so you can finally breathe and find a little peace your life has been?
Alright, this is the formula. So if we add 10 grams of ink in this container, we're gonna add 2 grams of puff additive. So it's 20% of whatever ink that's in here. That's the standard formula that Screen Print Direct gives us. But if I don't like the outcome of the formula, then I'm gonna readjust it just a bit so it can fit the style that I'm looking for, if that makes any sense. Alright guys, so we're gonna measure everything in grams. So we're gonna grab our empty container, we're gonna set it on top, then we're gonna tear it. And we should go back to 0, so it won't grab the weight of the container. Second, We're gonna add some ink in there. A couple grams. Let's see, let's try to get 100, maybe 100. Okay, we got 100, 101. Nice. And we're gonna do the same thing and we're gonna tear it. So we're gonna add 20 grams of puff additive. Start really slow. Don't start with a lot. That's 20. Exactly 20. Right on the money. Now, all we gotta do from here is just stir it up. Stir, stir, stir. Stir, stir, stir. Just stir, stir, stir. Stir, stir, stir. And that's it, guys. It's really that simple. Now we gotta add our inks right here. Let's add our inks so we can do some test runs. Now I'm gonna readjust my flash dryer. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit. All right, let's do our first test print just to see how everything is gonna come out. I'm gonna start with the 110 mesh and we're only gonna give it one pass. One pass, here we go. One. That's how the first print looks. Not too bad. All right, we're gonna raise it up and we're gonna lay it on top of the platen. And let's hope for the best. Go. 1, 2, 3, 12. Okay. So I do have a small puff, but it's not what I'm looking for. I want something to be around my penny, maybe a little bigger. I don't know yet. All right, this one's a little bit better. It's more vibrant, that's for sure. So it definitely needs an underbase. This one, you can kind of see the garments in there, and this one is a lot vibrant. But it's still not what I'm looking for. All right, so the third one is almost the same as the second one. It's not a big difference. Obviously, it is a little bit thicker, but not a huge difference. The first three were felt. Now we're gonna try the 40 mesh, monitor the temperature, and I'm still not quitting on this one because there's still so many adjustments that we can do. So let's run a B-roll.
Who can I get a amen? Amen. Can I get a amen? Amen. But we won't be knocked down forever. We will rise back up again. So can I get a
So we got way better results. Obviously, with the 40 mesh, the puff looks more because we do drop more ink on it. I'm gonna say with the one pass on both, I didn't like how it looks, so we're gonna stop doing those. Now, what I did different on these, I left them under the flash for a little bit longer. I was doing between 10 to 12 seconds. Now I'm doing 15 seconds. So it's pretty good. I got a nice little puff, but it's still not what I'm looking for. Now we're gonna add another 10% more of puff additive to the ink, and it's the same thing. We're gonna tear this, and once again, it's 100 grams, so we're gonna tear it again, but this time we're gonna add 30%. So that's 30 grams. And that's it, 30 grams. And we just grab it and we start stirring. Stir, 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 stir. And we keep testing until we're happy with the results. Finally, I got some good consistency. Not gonna lie, guys, I'm super happy with the outcome. It's definitely passing my penny. Now I'm gonna give you my secret formula so you guys can get the exact result. But first, let me show you where you can get all these materials, because I know you guys are gonna ask me. You can find everything that I showed you today at Screen Print Direct. The puff additive, inks, squeegees, screens, heat gun, and so many more stuff. And if you guys use the code myloprints, you get a 15% discount. I'm gonna add the link in the bio if you guys wanna go check it out. Okay, this is exactly what I did. First, I coated my screens with 3 passes of emulsion on both sides, front and back. Second, I used a low cure puff and a low cure ink, which helped me speed up the process since I'm doing everything manually. Third, I got my best results by using 50% of puff additive, which seems a little crazy. But I did a lot of test runs. Without exaggerating, probably a little over 50. I tried 20%, 30%. From there I jumped to 50%, even 80%. and I actually got really good results between 50 and 80. But then I dropped down all the way to 30 again just to double check my work, and I was getting a good puff, but not the puff that I was looking for. So then I went back up to 50, but I would recommend to do a couple test runs between 30 and 50 so you can find your sweet spot. Because at the end of the day, we all work different and we all have different equipment. Fourth, I adjusted the height of my flash dryer to 5.5 inches from the platen. Obviously, the higher the flash, the slower my ink dries, but this gave me the best results. Fifth, this is an easy one. Before printing, try to warm up your platen. It's gonna help you make the whole screen printing process run a lot smoother. 6. Print, flash, print for good results. I tried a single pass with no underbase with a 50% puff additive, and I didn't get a bad print. But with a print, flash, print, I got a better puff and a more vibrant, solid look. Now, when you're flashing your ink, make sure that it's dry to the touch, that it's nice and flat, that it doesn't puff up, because you will have problems when you add the other layer of ink on top of it. 7. Print, flash, print is good, but print, flash, print is better. Not gonna lie, this gave me the best results. Obviously, it's a lot more work, but the quality is there, so it's worth it. 8. I got better results with a 40 mesh than a 110 mesh. Even though they are super close, they're still a bit different. With a 40 mesh, my prints come a bit more puffier and more rounded. With a 110 mesh, the edges of my print come a little bit more finer. But at the end of the day, everything depends on the look that you're going for. 9. The ink starts to puff when it reaches a temperature between 200 and 230 Fahrenheit, around 12 to 15 seconds. So be patient with it. Don't take it out the flash right away. Puffing takes around 30 seconds to be cured, but having a t-shirt under a flash for 30 seconds could definitely burn it. So that's why I had to do a couple test runs with a light colored t-shirt just to make sure that I didn't get no scorch marks, but I didn't, so that's a good thing. And that's because I rose my flash 5.5 inches from my platen, because the heat of my flash is around 700 Fahrenheit. So if your flash is not that hot, then you don't have to raise it up that high. But you gotta play around with it and find the perfect height. To me, this was the hardest part, finding the correct temperature. But if you have a conveyor dryer, then it's a lot easier, because all you have to find out is the speed and the temperature of your conveyor dryer, and just play around with it until you find something that's really consistent. Now your ink cures at 270, but when you let it sit under a flash for 25 to 30 seconds, it's gonna surpass that, hitting a temperature of 300 to 360. So don't panic. I will recommend not letting your ink hit a higher temperature of 270, because you will start to have problems. Your puff will start to deflate, you could burn the ink, or even burn the t-shirt. And the last tip, give it a stretch test. Give it a stretch test to make sure nothing cracks, nothing breaks. Because this is really thick. Honestly, this feels really thick and heavy. And the last step, I'm gonna show you how to do a little puff with a heat gun. And it's pretty much the same thing. We're gonna flood the screen. We're gonna give it 2 hard passes, and we're just gonna flash it. Now, you don't wanna over flash it because it's gonna start to puff. You only want to dry it to the touch. That's it. So like that, we could add our other layer. Now we're going to add our last layer. And we're going to lift it off the platen. But before we start puffing, we're going to dry it. We're going to dry everything even. Now we're going to start puffing. We're going to start puffing. And to finish it off again, we're gonna give it a stretch test. Stretch test. Make sure nothing breaks. Everything looks good. So today was pretty successful. Even though it took me a long time, the results are beautiful. So it's all worth it. Just look at the puff, guys. Look at the puff. And this video was for a medium puff print. I'm gonna be working on another video on how to print a big old mega puff print. So stay tuned for that video. But for now, if you guys want to keep learning how to screen print, I would recommend to check these videos out. Once again, thank you so much for the love and support. Have a beautiful day, and God bless you all. God bless you all.